Welcome to the Ascend Growth AI podcast, where we mix smart growth moves with a little AI magic. I'm Niki, and let's dive in. Today, we're here joined by Duncan Burns, the founder of VeggiDome, a company transforming the way people store, access, and enjoy fresh vegetables. Duncan's mission brings together wellness, sustainability, and meaningful product design, helping people eat healthier while reducing food waste in simple, elegant ways. His journey blends innovation, purpose, and a deep desire to create something that improves everyday life. We're excited to hear his story, explore his leadership lessons behind building a value-driven company, and dive into AI and how it might support VeggiDome's next phase of growth. Good morning, Duncan.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Good, and I appreciated your introduction. It really does hit all the points, and it's something that I think about every day.
Let's start with your journey. So how did you come about starting this company?
I've always liked fruits and vegetables. I grew up in a place that had raised fruit trees in the garden, and there was always a fruit bowl on the table with something in it. And as I was in my career as a film and video editor in Hollywood for 2 decades, I always had something on the table while I was cutting, and I had a director even say, "That's Duncan's fruit stand," wherever I ate. It was something like that. So as I was raising my children, I wanted them to eat healthy. I tried to figure out, well, how can I have fruits and vegetables available to them when they came home from school? If there's nobody there, you know how it is. Anything on the kitchen table is fair game. So you got to put it out there and not just have a cracker box that they'll eat up and be hungry about 10 minutes later. So what I did was one weekend when I was taking care of the kids, my wife was, I don't know, she was traveling or something like that. I bought a whole bunch of fruits and vegetables. I washed them and put them on the table, and they couldn't eat them all, of course. Then I thought, I'll try to see how I can keep them going through the whole weekend. And what I did was I made it so that there was a humid area where they were being kept. This harkens back to my childhood when I was a kid. We actually had a greenhouse on the property that my older brother, and my dad and I built. And it was just like out of scraps of old glass windows and stuff like that. But what turned into, it was a greenhouse. I learned that vegetables or just plants in general drink from the air through their leaves. We're all thinking, oh, they need the roots and that's it. But actually they drink as much water through their leaves and bark and things. So that's how I thought, well, I'll try to see if these vegetables can do the same as these orchids that my brother used to grow. And it turned out these vegetables that I'd bought that one weekend were lasting throughout the whole week out on the table. And the kids were eating from it. They were like gobbling it up. Now, the design that I first made was something where they had to take it apart to be able to get the fruit and vegetables. So I had to think about, well, how can I make it really easy? Like a cookie jar type of thing. And so I started making this cookie jar type shape, but the bottom had to be empty so that the water and everything will sit on the bottom and they'll rot or they'll sit in water. So it had to be more freestanding. So it had to have no bottom, but also a lid on the top. And what happened was, and this is something that just amazed me, is when I put a lid on it, it worked even better. Lasting 2 or 3 weeks even. Sometimes vegetables and lettuce that can last. It's not just last in it. It actually thrives. It actually grows. This is something that where plants can grow inside of a container like that. Well, think about your fruits and vegetables. When they're harvested, we think, oh, they're chopped and then they have to be thrown in a plastic bag and put in the refrigerator. But actually, the refrigerator is a really harsh environment. And you get freezer burn, you get, various things that happen in the fridge that you're throwing away in the United States, 40% of what we buy in the market. So there's that throwaway of as much as $1,500 a year that we buy from the vegetables from the market and we throw it away. And so that makes it so people don't necessarily want to buy so much of it either. Here in the United States, we do need to eat more fresh fruits and vegetables. It's just a scientific fact, and especially coming out more and more, that only 5% of the U.S. population has enough fiber in their diets. And that's an important thing for heart disease and type 2 diabetes and everything like that. Anyway, so this beginning story is that I used the concept of a greenhouse on my kitchen table for my kids. And it turned out to be really successful. I mean, better than I thought it would be. I thought it would keep it for a day or two, but it kept it for over a week. So I thought, why aren't we doing this? And, we're not doing this. And the reason why we're not doing it is because people aren't producing that shape of glass. And what I did was I was able to first patent the shapes of glass, but then I actually went further distance and actually got a utility patent. The whole concept of having vegetables and fruit out on the table that allows this lid to make it so that, now this is what I learned. I went to UCLA to talk to some professors in biology. I live nearby there, like 10 or 15 minutes away. And I asked them, now, why is it working better now that I've got this kind of lid on the top? Whereas before it was working well, but now it's increased its percentage of good fresh vegetables. And what happened was they said, oh, your lid is letting the ethylene gas out. I thought, well, what's ethylene gas? I didn't even know. What happens is ethylene is a chemical that plants produce to make them ripen and grow. And if you have that escaping and going away, it means that they're not going to spoil as fast. So by complete accident, I mean, people can say, did you invent this? I kind of walked into it. I was able to notice the difference. That helped me. But really, what happens is it's something that this particular shape with the lid and everything is just exactly what the plants like to be in. And here we are as a nation throwing vegetables in a plastic bag, putting it in the fridge, forgetting about it, letting it rot, throwing it away. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to go towards this and form a company. And that's what I did with the patents and the trademarks now in place. We've sold 7,000 units at this point, but we need to really expand. And that's where I'm at.
What an amazing product. I mean, I know my house could use it. If you cut an onion and it's half open,
Yeah.
then can you put it back, the half open one in there, and it will still thrive?
Yes. Now, it'll smell a bit because you've cut an onion, but it doesn't affect the other fruits and vegetables in there. And you can mix fruits. You put fruits in there, ripen. Peaches ripen really well. Pears ripen. If you cut it open, like an avocado, you can put an avocado in there. It'll stay green for a lot longer than if you put it in the fridge or if you have it out on the table.
Oh my gosh, I love it. What were some of the major turning points in your leadership while you were going through this?
Well, what happened was I was with an accelerator named Expert Dojo, who I really recommend. They're really great. They've grown for a lot over the years. The mentor or the leader of that suggested that I did an Indiegogo. So that was a big turning point, was doing an Indiegogo to raise the first batch of my product. I was selling it before it was made because of this Indiegogo. And it established me on social media. It did a lot of different things where I had interviews and benefits for that cause. And that I would suggest, that was a good idea. Boy, is that a lot of work. Doing these fundraising, Indiegogo, and where people do raise funds online, you're just working day to night. It's difficult. But it made it so that we raised enough money to make the first batch of 2,000.
So once you got your 2,000 going,
Yeah.
then you used the revenue from that to continue on.
Right. We were able to continue on, and we did make another batch, which was good. But there, at some point, we're trying to make a small number. Like every time you make 2,000 units, that's okay. And the molds were there. But what we really needed to do is we wanted to raise more money. And that's the point where we're at right now, is we need to raise more money. Because when you're making glass, it's not like making, let's say, bagels or something. Oh, let's just make some more bagels. Glass is something that they heat up the glass. Whole big amounts of your product should be made. 10,000 units, right. 50,000 units is much better, because what happens is once they warm up the glass and they start making it, it's got to keep flowing. And they'll charge you a lot more just to make 2,000 units. So as a company, I was making them on an expensive level if you only make 2,000 units. So it's better to get that cost go down. And that's what I was learning is that, it's difficult to make that next big leap to make 10,000 units.
Who's your ideal customer?
I think really families with kids that are, let's say, between 7 and 20, and they're interested in having healthy lifestyles or eating, again, anybody who's interested in healthy lifestyle, really. But families seem to really like them. I get emails from moms who are saying, my goodness, the kids are just eating up all these vegetables. I'm having to go back to the store all the time and buying lettuce, celery, and carrots all the time when I never used to have to do that.
So are you business direct? So you're consumer direct, or are you trying to work with companies as well?
We are trying to work with companies. That's one thing that is a difficulty in getting a corporation to come on board with something. And maybe this is a theme or something that could be talked about in discussion, is that when you're making something that is creating a new concept or a new category. So you can't go to the stores for kitchen supplies and buy something for fresh vegetables to be kept outside. They
Right.
don't. People keep them in the fridge. So there are all these different Tupperware containers with lids and stuff like that. But zero are made to have it so the vegetables can stay outside, because they just can't conceive of the fact that you can do that. But actually it does it quite well and does better than in the fridge in a plastic bag. So what I'm really saying is that I've been finding it difficult to reach out to corporations and say, let's get on board. We've sold out our inventory at this point. Here's this new concept of keeping fresh vegetables and fresh fruit out on the counter. Breaking through and having something like that change the whole category, change the whole behavior. It's hard to take on as a small company.
What's your geographical area that you reach to?
Well, North America is really where we've been selling them. And the really amazing thing to me was when we did the Indiegogo, we sold to 47 of the 50 states. It wasn't like, oh, fresh fruits and vegetables, that's probably California, maybe New York, maybe Oregon, some sort of people, that type of thing. No, it was all over the United States. People are interested in having healthy lifestyles.
What industry trends are impacting your growth strategy right now?
Well, we are affected by, at this point, we want to be in production. We've stopped production right now because we sold out. We wanted to scale up. And so we're at a point now where we're going to be doing a relaunch. So what's going to affect us is the tariffs. If we're going to make it in China again, which we don't necessarily have to do, we might make them in Mexico this time, but that's affecting us. I think that's really all. If our price has to go up a bit because of any tariffs or because of inflation, the price of everything is kind of matching that. So we're not standing out as something that's really expensive or anything, but that will affect us.
So one of your mitigation techniques for that would be move it so that it doesn't have to come as far, or try to find somewhere in America that you can make it. What other things are you doing to try to mitigate?
Really, we're in discussions right now for investment where we need to go get that next step up. It's an interesting journey because so many people think it's a great idea and it's really good. But when it comes down to saying, well, I would like to get into the glass making business, a lot of people jump into it, even though that's what it's going to be. It is to be glass. We have tested on plastic and it does work. But the only thing is, people really don't like putting their food in plastic containers as much. We definitely want to stay with glass because one of our core audiences is the healthy lifestyle people. Many of them insist it's glass, and happy that it is. So we're in another fundraising stage right now. And I know we're reaching out to some really incredible groups. We just have to be able to make that jump for them to see that a new category of kitchenware is completely needed.
How do you use AI in your company right now?
There's two ways in which we've used AI, and it's limited in its scope because some of the outgoing letters that we've got put out there, I make it so that we are using ChatGPT a little bit for rewriting things. And I found that it's actually good to have that perspective of that touch. But I do start with my own words. I start with my own concepts and then see how that can be done more sleek. It can be less wordy and also make it so it has a broader appeal.
If you could wave a magic wand, what do you wish AI was helping you with right now?
Well, if I had a magic wand, we would be making the 10,000 units and then the 40,000 units. But then what we do is when we're selling it, we want the AI to have part of our website be approachable to our customers. We want better user experience because people will be able to ask specific questions about their own personal use of my product. I'm definitely going to upgrade our site when we have that batch being made so that
Right.
people can have a much more specific answer to their questions as to how, like you just said about the onions, that type of question would be answered. And we'll have a data bank of not only that type of question and answer, but also various experiences of our customers that are available.
I agree with you that knowledge, giving the consumer the information that they're looking for to help close your sale and keep it moving. Because it does just typically come down to a little bit more information of how does this meet my need. And if you
Right.
accomplish that, yeah, that's great.
It's going to be really spearheaded towards user experience as being made positive. Because what happens is people can try, oh, I got this, I got this victory pod and I put this in and it didn't work for me. And it's like, well, you don't just do it once, you
Yeah.
do it ongoing.
What are you really proud of that's working well in this company right now?
What's working well is that we really do believe that there needs to be more shift towards produce and fresh vegetables and fruit in people's lives. It is just hugely apparent that as people eat, even just introduce it more in their lives, that they'll be able to have a healthier existence,
Right.
live longer, have less problems. So we're really saying that we're proud that we're able to bring a new, let's say it's like a little step ladder to reach that next step for people to say, you know what, vegetables and fruit really a much more part of my life now because I'm not reaching for the cracker box. I'm reaching for the vegetables. And they're there because my company has made it available and on the table for people to just have it as part of their daily life.
What part of the business is the most frustrating or time consuming for you right now?
I think, and I've gone through a lot of changes, pitching to investors, I think has been something that's been very frustrating. I've only got positive responses, except for no checks.
You're like, it's great that you love that it works, but help me get it out to the world.
Exactly. So that's been frustrating because at least say no why you going to say no, but don't
Right.
say yes and then not show up.
When you think about capturing lost leads or reaching more customers, where do you feel the biggest gaps are or opportunities?
I think it's good to broaden out your appeal because what happens is, let's say I could sell to people who are plant based, who are vegans, and who are interested in that type of diet. But it turns out we went to Phoenix to do a show, and we had our most successful show in the middle of Arizona, which you don't think of as fruits and vegetable land. You don't think about vegans. Maybe then there are a lot of them, but they were just general people who wanted to have something new in their kitchen that they could have sitting on the counter that makes it look pretty. So I think it's good to stay general and don't narrow your scope. Anybody could be potentially pleased for their own reasons.
What has been the most unexpected lesson that you've learned as a founder?
Lessons. That's a hard one. There are a lot of lessons. What I've learned is I am really being consistent with my message, but also that you have to keep on reinventing yourself too.
As a leader, what advice would you give someone who wants to be a CEO or a founder of a company?
That sounds good. I think you've got to believe in what your product is because, just to sell it as a salesperson and not necessarily be involved with it is something that's going to be tiresome. To be able to go for the long haul, I think you really want to think that, what we're selling is something that is going to make a good difference in people's lives because it's going to have to weather a storm. That's for sure.
If you look back now, what's the biggest thing that you've learned from this entire experience about yourself?
I think that what I've learned is that I really have a sense of pride. And I also feel that the pride comes from being able to be resilient and being able to be there continuously.
You learn what character you have when you have to persevere, huh?
Right, exactly.
What is the biggest win that stands out in your mind in the last 5 years?
The biggest win was being able to thank John Sally, who is a four-time NBA champion, to be part of our product
Yeah.
and part of our project. He has elevated everything so much. He's brilliant. He is, in fact, plant-based, but he also is open-minded to people who have all different lifestyles. He just thinks, we've got to get more fruits and vegetables into people's diets. But he also, I don't know, he has such an integrity that it's wonderful to be around him. So that was a big lift, to be able to have him be part of our team.
And working with him and letting him be a part of that, what's the best part of that experience? What did you learn out of that experience with him?
That it's good to relax a little bit and not like you don't want to pressure things. When he and I shoot together, it's a friendly conversation. And we get the best stuff from that because it's what he really truly feels.
That's great. Given that you're used to solving problems of that magnitude, what are you focused on right now?
Right now, I'm focused on actually being able to talk to investment groups who are already aligned. For a while there, I had the kind of grenade technique of just throw it out there and see whatever happens and whoever answers the call. And what I found is I would be talking to people for at length, and then I realized that they really weren't going to be involved. I think it's better to focus on people who are aligned with it. The responses are better that way. So I think it's good to really kind of focus on a group who are already speaking your language or already interested in your topic. And part of my AI is the search. I've been able to do some searches and find out stuff that over 5 years I didn't even know about these people, and I should have.
Isn't that great? When we can use AI to help us
Right.
find our tribe where before we wouldn't even know, but it is a really amazing asset in a business, that's for sure. In
Yeah,
life.
these people have been busy doing this for years, and I didn't really know about them, even though I was in their court,
Yeah. You've got a really good thing going. You've got an amazing product, Duncan. We wish you every ounce of success with it, for sure. We thank you for sharing your journey, your insights, and the passion behind VeggiDome. Conversation like this reminds us that innovation doesn't always come from complex technology. Sometimes it comes simply from solving a real problem in a thoughtful, human-centered way. For everyone listening, thank you for joining us on Ascend Growth AI, where we highlight leaders shaping the future and exploring how smart strategy and a touch of AI can help a business grow.